Guys, I understand it now. You guys have seen that guy who does it, right? You understand where the reference is from?
Okay, I understand it now. I understand it now.
But it's crazy how he does it. Every time without fail, it seems like he can't do it. But then something snaps, it changes in his mind, and he's able to hit the target, make the goal, whatever it is. And some may describe that moment as him locking in. And that got me thinking, how many times do One Piece characters lock in like that? And the answer is a lot. And that's why I'm going to be going over the series' greatest lock-in moments. There's a lot of them, so I won't be going through all of them in this video, but this will be a selection of some of the greatest ones that I can find. For others that should be in consideration, definitely drop them in the comments and like it so I can make a part 2. Also, subscribe to the channel for more content like this every week. What are you waiting for? And share it around with all your communities. You know we always say here, let's get it going. Oh, and make sure you subscribe to me and my boys and CSY. The lock-in. Now I say that, and some people may not know what that means. Especially if you're older, you know this is a relatively young term. But a lock-in, as defined by myself, is when something is seemingly not going the character's way. Either they're not taking it seriously, or they can't keep up, but then they kind of just understand something, a new dimension to what they hadn't been thinking about before, which could be a power-up, a new strategy, or even the mental shift of just being serious. That allows the person to then dominate in a different way, almost as if they're a completely different person from before. Hence, they are locked in. And in One Piece, the way that we typically see this the most is through fights. That's why the first lock-in moment that I want to talk about is Zoro and Sanji in the Groggy Ring. To take you back to what was happening at the time, place yourselves back in Long Ring Longland. I know, it's not something you want to do often, but humor me. You got the history between Zoro and Sanji, the two who are constantly bickering and arguing about everything. Suddenly, they're the two who are chosen to play in the next round. They're going up against the giant Groggy monsters. Sanji's got a ball in his head, Zoro's got no swords. It's a whole thing, and everyone, including Nami, Usopp, and us as the audience, were all concerned with how they were going to pull this off, considering that they cannot work together. And at the start of the Groggy Ring, it seemed dire. The two of them were so out of sync that they were getting smacked to pieces. It seemed as if we were going to lose yet another crewmate, and after Foxy saw their strength, I'm positive it was going to be one of them. But that's when the lock-in moment happened. As they're both lying down, beaten and battered on the floor, you just have Zoro being like, "Hey Cook, lend me help for just 10 seconds. And Sanji's just like, yeah, 10 seconds sounds about reasonable. From this moment on, the two of them know what to do. They get up and immediately dispatch two of the three monsters with Bukatir shot and no sword style Dragon Twister respectively. And then they hit a combined attack with Sanji using Armadillo power shot to shoot Zoro off of his leg, allowing him to literally grab Big Pan's jaw and slam his head fall first into the ground. And remember, Big Pan is a Wotan, a combination between a fishman and a giant. Now that was just too tough to see. The two of them were really locked in for real. But for another moment where the two of them were locked in, you gotta add Luffy and surprisingly even Chopper to this mix. Cause now we gotta talk about the Franky family fight. It's Water 7, literally the peak of Oda's dramatic storytelling ability. Usopp had already gotten beaten up and the money taken from him once. Remember, around this time is when Usopp was feeling so useless because the Mary was being broken down. He felt like he didn't have a strong place in the crew. And so he was like, nah, I need to be the one to go and get that bread back. I lost it, I gotta own up to it and go back and get it. But as we all know, that didn't go according to plan. He got beat to pieces and left lying on the road, battered and bruised, just in time for his friends to see it. Nah, when Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Chopper saw that, lock in. Their entire demeanor shifted. With these looks on their faces, they damn near looked evil. They marched straight into the Franky family house and fought so hard that they blew it up. And of course, this is a recreation of the first All on Park walk, but I think that this one is even more powerful just because of all the buildup that we see with it. We really see Usopp's emotional journey and how this batters him down. To get that catharsis of seeing the Straw Hats go absolutely ham on the Franky family. Y'all remember when Sanji literally stood on one's head and used his head as a platform to kick all the others? And then, I think this can't be understated, they blew up their house. And then we feel that as an emotional high of, yes, somebody got revenge for Usopp, all for that to come sliding back down again with the thought that Luffy and Usopp are gonna have to fight each other, and then Usopp eventually leaves the crew? I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to watch Water 7 Enies Lobby again, because that was peak. But not as peak as our next lock-in moment though. Actually, that's not true. Enies Lobby is literally my favorite arc in the series, but I just had to say it for transition. Because for our next lock-in moment, we're getting into a 1v1, and that's going to be Zoro versus Mr. One. Let's cast our minds back to Alabasta. It's the final fight against Baroque Works, and in the Zoro versus Mr. One fight, I'm not gonna lie, Zoro was at first getting pieced up. Do y'all remember how much he was bleeding? Mr. One's Dice Fruit was literally cutting into him in all sorts of angles and directions. Spiral Hollow, he literally made buzzsaws to cut into his stomach. Sparbreak literally severed buildings in half. So at the time, it really seemed like Zoro was down and out. It was like, how much pain can this guy take? But nah, Zoro locked in. He stood up, breathed heavily, and suddenly it was almost as if he was in tune with something that we didn't yet understand. He mysteriously states that he can understand the breathing of the world around him, and with that new understanding, defeats Mr. One using One Sword style Lion Song. Now the lock-in moment here is kind of contentious between fans, because people actually don't know what that moment is that Zoro's talking about. When he says he can understand the breathing of the things around him, is that him unlocking the voice of all things? Seemingly not, because he doesn't have the same reaction that Luffy does when his is in use. So then people say, well, this may actually be him tapping early on into observation Haki. If this is actually confirmed by Oda, it would actually be peak, because it means that he was actually the first Straw Hat to ever use any form of Haki, even before Luffy. But nah, one thing that can't be denied is that if Zoro's involved, you can expect a lock-in at some point, especially when that bandana come on. Now, a lot of lock-ins are centralized to the Straw Hats, and that makes sense. They're the characters that we follow. I'm actually looking for more non-Straw Hat ones, so if you have any, put them in the comments. But next, let's look towards the lock-in moment of one of the greatest legends this world has ever seen. Whitebeard, specifically his lock-in at Marineford. Now we all know the story with Whitebeard at Marineford. He was old, decrepit, and sick, and the sickness is the biggest part because that was actually taking a lot out of him stamina-wise and strength-wise. It's repeatedly hammered in that this is nowhere near the damage that he could have potentially done if he wasn't sick. The sickness was literally stopping his ability to use Conqueror's Haki. And so, you know, comparatively, we see a pretty tame Whitebeard at the beginning. Of course, he's still Whitebeard, so he's doing crazy things like fighting all 3 admirals at different points in time. And when he called Akainu a magma brat and blew out that meteor, that was hilarious. But nah, Whitebeard's lock-in moment only occurred after Ace died. When Akainu plunged his flaming fist into Ace's back, permanently making him a donut. Seeing his son die in front of his eyes, that was enough to cause the switch in Whitebeard's mind. Look at how this man pulled up behind Akainu. Now look at him, he looks like a demon. Mind you, he's the biggest person on the battlefield. How did he not hear him coming at all? And Whitebeard says nothing, but the absolute devastating quake to the face said it all. The way that he was hammering Akainu, I actually thought that he may die. He punched Akainu so hard, his head started to concave in. And then of course Blackbeard put up with his entire crew, jumped him, killed him, and then stole his devil fruit, but we're not talking about that. Now our final lock-in for this video is gonna be one that's Luffy-centric. Because of course, he's the main character. He's one of the people who has the most lock-ins in the series. And one of my favorite Luffy lock-in moments is when he learned Advanced Conqueror's Haki. So even though a lot of people have things against Wano, let me take you back there, specifically to Roof Piece, one of the best sections of that arc. For context, Luffy was already taken out, and this is like his second time being taken out by Kaido specifically. To their credit, the rest of the fighters initiated and successfully pulled off their plan to separate Big Mom and Kaido by forcing Big Mom off, to the point where even Kaido was like, yo, Big Mom, that was embarrassing. How are you allowing them to do you like that? But then things take a turn for the worse because Kaido starts beating on them dudes. In his hybrid form, he was just thunder boggling everybody. It was devious. Boggling? Eventually, when Prometheus and Napoleon went off to help Big Mom, which caused Kid and Law to leave so that they could deal with Big Mom, you just have Zoro and Law against Kaido. Kaido essentially speed blitzes Law and is about to do the same to Zoro, but then Zoro has a mini lock-in moment of his own in this chapter actually, when he busts out 9 Sword style for the first time since the time skip started and uses Dead Man's Game. And that was even when we learned through Kaido that Zoro has Conqueror's Haki. But even with all that said, he absolutely decimated Zoro too and was about to kill him. But that's when Luffy just rises cold as hell and was like, you idiot. Why would we ever follow you? And that's when Luffy explains, you can infuse conquerors into attacks. And Kaido confirms it. while about to speed blitz him. But just as he's about to bring down the hammer, Luffy locks in and shows that he can do it too. After taking just a few swings from Kaido's Kanabo, Luffy figured out how to do it and applied it to a level where he could be matching Kaido in his hybrid form. And I'm not gonna lie, the importance of this lock-in cannot be understated, because Advanced Conqueror's Haki is the single strongest power in this world right now. It is literally what is allowing Luffy, combined with Gear 5, to reach the levels and heights and fights that he is reaching, all of which could not have happened without Luffy's realization. Those are some of the greatest lock-ins I found for this video, y'all, but now it's your turn. What are some of the best lock-in moments that I left out? As I mentioned, I will be running back a part 2 if this gets enough love, so definitely put your suggestions in the comments. And on my personal list, I have tons, so this is a very recyclable video. That is the end of the video, y'all, but before we go, like it, subscribe, and share it around with all your friends who love the series, or anime and manga in general. Remember what I always say, I'm trying to build a community, but I need your help to do it. That's gonna be all from me. I'll catch you on the next one, and always remember, one piece, one life. I think I'm gonna go eat some rice right now. I'm craving rice.